Hey everyone, Michelle here. Thank you for joining me on my channel. I am here with you today with the February My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit, and I love this blue paper. So that is what I'm going to use for my background. Now, if you have watched my videos before, I have done something similar where I'm going to cut out the frame portion out of this background paper. So in the past, I've layered it on top so that I could tuck things underneath. For this one, I'm actually going to raise the border portion. So it is going to look truly like a frame when I'm done. At least that is my hope. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And the tape that I like to use, since it is out and in frame, is just frog tape. So it's a painter's tape, and it is very low tack. But I also will pat it against my sleeve to get it just a little bit less sticky, and that works really well for me. So on this paper, it already kind of has a notebook kind of look in the pattern. So I'm just going to exaggerate that a bit with my punch here along a few of the edges. So that is what I've got going on there. Just going to rough it up a little bit. Clean it up a little bit with my scraper tool there. And there you see that is kind of my goal, is to have that middle piece lower than the outer piece. So I wanted just one more layer, and so I'm going to use white to create the look of a mat. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that same process that I did with the blue frame, and I am just going to eyeball it. And so I know that there are people who are so much more precise than I am, but I tend to rough up my edges anyway. And so I just go for it. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the exterior bits there with some foam and go ahead and put that on the white mat that I've created, and that is going to create that higher level. And so I like how that looks. And so I'm also going to use in the kit, there is some Prima chipboard. So I'm going to use the florals on this layout. So I believe I'm using that looks like tumbled or speckled egg or tumbled glass, one of the two. And I use this layer first, and then it feels a little gray when I'm done and I'm comparing it to the uh, the layout. And so I'm going to make it a little bit darker. But before I do that, I have the uh, um, cut file that came with the kit, this lovely little floral. And so I am going to back the three florals with three different pattern papers from the collection. So I have it in that teal, the light blue, and the or teal, the light pink, and the darker pink. And I'm just going to leave the leaves so that has some white showing there. So I don't know if I did it off camera. I did add a little bit of white paint into that center square. And so if we don't see it here later on film, just know that's, I did lighten that up a little bit. And now I am just taking a background stamp and adding just a little bit of detail to the two areas that are going to be part of my embellishment clusters. And I'm also going to add some little birdies from this 49 and Market um, stamp set. So the collection that is, I don't know if I mentioned it, that is part of this limited edition February kit is Birdsong from 49 and Market. So adding a few little birds seemed appropriate. And there you can see that chipboard piece in the center. I have added another color to it. It might be salty ocean. And so I should do a better job of like writing down the names because when I'm doing the voiceovers for this, the picture is really small. And so then I play it back and watch what you're watching, and I can totally see the name of it. But when I'm doing the voiceover, I'm just taking a guess. And so this is the stencil that comes in the kit, this lovely little floral pattern. And so I'm just adding some Tim Holtz texture paste through there, again, in the areas that my clusters are going to be. And I covered the bird up a little bit more than I wanted to, so I just scraped that off. So I want to do something with the centers of my little flowers, and so I'm just going to add some collage medium to the centers and use my little scoop to add these little frill beads to the centers and let that dry. And oh, here, this is where I'm going to add just a little bit of white. And so I'm just using my brayer to do that. And I should have done it on the silicone mat piece. So if you do something like that, I recommend using the silicone mat because the regular glass mat is just way slippery for a brayer. Okay, so it looks like I have everything mounted for the background and am going to go ahead and move on to matting my photo. So this photo is one of my husband and I. I believe we are at Port Angeles for this photo. And this was actually almost a year ago, or it was just almost exactly a year ago because this was for our anniversary last year in January. And so I go ahead and place the photo. I had been thinking about kind of tucking it in to the layers, but I know that my clusters can be a little on the large side, and I didn't want to fight with covering the photo too much. And so I do take it a little bit more off center. And now that is where I'm going to have my a cut file and my main cluster. I cut that chipboard painted floral in half, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of this ivory flower. And I decide to use the blue with this. I'm going to try to stick primarily with blue being the major color with just some hints of ivory and the pinks. So that is what we have going on so far. I am going to go ahead and figure out where we want to place those chipboard pieces. And I think that that is pretty much what it is going to look like. I'm going to add a few more pieces as I always do, but it looks like I am committing because I think I am about to glue down those flowers. Yes. And so I'm going to go ahead and use the Tim Holtz Collage Medium. This video is sped up probably 4 times speed, and so it looks like I hold them down for like 15 seconds, but it's probably closer to 45 seconds or a minute to get those flowers to really try to set in. And I- if you can believe it, I know the last time I did my videos for my creative scrapbook, I was getting over a cold. And once again, this month I am also getting over a cold, and so I don't always sound like this. And usually I go years without being sick, but this is just an unlucky year. So, my apologies if my voice is a little crackly. So I am going to use some of the birds in the kit on this layout, and so kind of want to give them something to perch on. So I'm going to go ahead and use that strip of green and white, or it might be more teal and white paper, as well as a word sentiment. And my title is also going to go down there, which is loved. And because we did have a great time, and it was an anniversary trip, and so that seemed appropriate. And yeah, I think I'm going to use that word sentiment. That all looks like things that are going to stay. Now, I do put down my birds. I do end up moving that over so it isn't covering so much of the cut file florals. But it might be a while before I move it over. In fact, it might be just before I take my final shots and close ups. All right. So, excuse me. I am going to add just a few word sentiments as well, and uh, just taking a look at what I have left. I've done a couple layouts at this point, and so I want to make sure I use word sentiments that I can use in both clusters. I am going to use that larger chipboard piece up on the top left, as well as some birdies and tickets. Now, I go back and forth a little bit, but decide to keep that cluster relatively small compared to the larger one down by my photo, because that's really where I want your eye to go, is down to the photo and title. Now you see behind the birds, I am using just some of the petals that I had removed from larger flowers to create a little perch for my birds, a little bit of lighter color there. So it pops a little bit more. I'm also going to use just a little bit of pink and yellow to keep it balanced with what I have going on below with those tickets. And there I'm going to mount those little birdies up on those flower petals. So I'm taking another look at word sentiments, and I go ahead and use that teal one, another little birdie piece up there, and then I'm going to, um, oh, maybe I moved nope, I have not moved them yet. So just figuring out if I am done, because I don't want to get, well, I always want to get too cray cray and add too much, but I'm trying to be strong and do some self editing. And so I'm just going to add a few little pieces here and there. I use some of those lovely little robin's eggs. And I think that is one of the final embellishments that I add. I'm going to fix that little black word sentiment there down at the bottom. Add just a little bit of floral piece up there at the top so that tag has something sitting on it. And I am going to add some splatters. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that this will give you some inspiration. Check out my Creative Scrapbook. You won't regret it. Here are some close ups, and like or subscribe. Thanks, everyone.